Welcome to my second video on Goodnotes, tips for designers. In today's video, we're going to talk about ways to set up Goodnotes so that you can move faster when an idea strikes or if you're in the middle of a meeting. There's going to be three areas that we're going to go over. First, organization, then tools, and then setting up auto-sync. In Goodnotes, we have these four levels of information: your master categories, your categories, notebooks, and pages. Categories and master categories are like folders. It's just two levels of embedded folders. Notebooks are the file that you're going to be drawing in, and pages are, this is a page. And you can think about the number of items that you want to have on each of these kind of as a pyramid. So you're going to have the most number of pages, then notebooks, then categories and master categories. The reason I say to do it this way is because pages are really easy to navigate between. You can page through, you can open up your thumbnail navigation, you can quickly get where you need to go. Categories and master categories just take a few more clicks to get to the information that you want to, so you're going to want to have fewer of those that you have to jump between. So we can look at our notebooks by going back to this page. And so you see in this category of Hannah Pixels, I have 4 notebooks. If you pull up, you can easily search and sort notebooks. So having a lot of notebooks in one category is not a really big problem. So they're initially sorted by the last time I opened them. If I wanted to switch to name, I can do that. But really the recently used seems to work pretty well for me. Under categories, you can see the list of categories we have here. If you want to add new ones, you can hit that plus and create a category or master category. I haven't created any master categories, and you'll notice that I have pretty broad categories to organize things. So I have my life stuff, my work stuff, my stuff for these videos, conferences, and uncategorized and archived are just things I want to delete, and I don't think there's anything in uncategorized. So really not very many categories at all. And the reason I don't have very many is I kind of find it to be a bit of a pain to switch back and forth when I'm in the middle of a project. Initially, I had set up my categories so that each of the projects that I was working on had a category, but that didn't work very well for me. Instead, I have a notebook per project I'm working on. So that's how I recommend setting up your categories, kind of one for every big area of work that you're going to be working on together. In terms of notebooks, I would recommend having a notebook set up for every project that you're working on. It is really easy to move pages between notebooks, and I'm going to show you how to do that. In addition to having a notebook per project, I would also recommend setting up a notebook that I call my scratch pad. And this is just a notebook that if I'm in the heat of something and I don't really care where it goes quite yet, I'm not really sure or maybe I'm just going to delete it. It's just kind of something that I'm working on. I don't have to think too much about which notebook to put it in. The reason this is a really nice trick is that it's really easy to move pages between notebooks in Goodnotes. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's say that on this page, I've been taking notes during a meeting. Maybe we had been drawing some diagrams. I don't know, some throwaway diagram here. And so let's say I wanted this page to save it in one of my project notebooks. Opening up the thumbnail view gives me a list of all my pages. And here I can go to edit. I can select the page I want to move, and I can copy it. That little check means that it has been copied. Now I can move into the notebook that I want it in, say this Goodnotes Tips project. I can open up that thumbnail view again, hit add, and when I hit the plus, I get the option to paste copied pages here. I can do that. And now that page is saved in this notebook. It's still here, so if I want to delete it from here, I can do that by going to edit, hitting that, and then trashing that page. So that's why I find it very convenient to have this scratchpad notebook so that when I'm in the middle of something and need to move quickly, I'm not worried too much about organization. I can do that after the fact. Now that you have your categories and notebooks all set up, let's talk about tools. Your tools are all up here in the center. You'll probably notice that the colors that you have here and the widths of the pencils are different than what you're seeing on your iPad if you're following along. Goodnotes allows you to edit this color palette and these widths to pick kind of what are your most common ones that you want to be able to refer back to time and time again. Some people might like working from this palette, which really gives you a lot of options, but I found that to be a little bit too many options for me. You also then have to manage this slider, which trying to get the same widths over and over again, especially if you're jumping back and forth between a couple, is kind of a pain in the butt. So in order to edit this color palette, first I would recommend getting rid of any of the ones in the defaults that you don't like. So say I want to get rid of this gray. You can tap on it and then hit this delete, and then that color will no longer show up. If I want to add one, say I want to add that gray back in, I can do that there. If you want to add a color that's not in this grid, you just hit this dot, dot, dot up at the top, and then you can enter the hex value of a color. Unfortunately, you have to do this one by one. But this is a one-time setup, and then you're good to go for the rest of the time that you're using it. I added some pastels here initially, but I honestly haven't used them all that much because the highlighter usually acts as my more pastel-y or kind of accent colors. The way that the pencil and the highlighter differ is that the highlighter is usually put under in terms of layer, and it also has a slight translucency. So that if you layer it, you get a layering effect versus the pen is 100% opaque. Another tool that you're probably going to be changing the settings of frequently, not just initially setting up, is the eraser. So the setting that I probably adjust the most is this erase entire stroke. I'll show you what it does initially without that. So that's turned off right now. And so it's still vector, which means that this is not a perfectly smooth erase, but it is trying to erase in little chunks. It doesn't look that great if you have shapes that you kind of scribbled in. So you see I'm trying to get this circle bottom smooth at the end. It's not very smooth. So usually what I want to end up doing is just erase that whole thing and then redraw it, which is where the erase entire stroke comes in. So instead of just erasing that little bit, it will erase everything that was on that same path, which is pretty handy for erasing behind things, or in that case where if I wanted to redraw that circle with a smoother bottom, I can do that there. We've now finished setting up our tools. Now I want to go over setting up something I've always called auto sync, but just realized the official term for it is auto backup. Sorry about that. The thing that makes auto backup so great is that once you have it set up, you can access your Goodnotes files from any computer or mobile device that has access to the cloud storage you set it up. And it's just kind of set it and forget it, so you don't have to think about exporting every time that you make a change. So if I go back here to my notebooks view, go into Options, Settings, Automatic Backup. Here I have my automatic backup turned off. I want to turn that on. You can pick which type of cloud storage you're going to back up to. So it supports Box, Dropbox, OneDrive, or Google Drive. The other thing that's a little bit hidden here, the excluded directory and file names is really handy if you're using your iPad for both work and kind of play stuff, and you want to keep those separate. So in this case, my Dropbox is my personal Dropbox. I originally had this set up to my Google Drive for work, and so I wanted it to ignore the Life folder. But now that I'm setting it up for my personal Dropbox, I don't want all my work stuff going in there. So I'm going to ignore everything that is a part of the work category. And so now it won't bring in those files. I can hit done. And down here, I had that as paused before. It's going to automatically start uploading those to my Dropbox. And you can see here the little spinner means it's working. If that spinner goes away, it means everything is backed up. And so now if I go into my Dropbox, I now have a folder called Goodnotes. You can change that in the settings if you want it to save someplace else. And I'm getting folders with all my categories and PDFs of the things that I have in there. And so there you have it. So setting up those 3 things ahead of time should make working in Goodnotes a lot faster. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions or thoughts or tips that you want to share with others watching this video, please comment below, and subscribe for more videos. Thanks.